very humbled to be invited to speak at Stanford. And then about an hour and a half ago, I realized that I was the last presentation of the day. I was slightly late, working towards happy hour. So, and coming after a whole bunch of extraordinary information. So now I have the challenge to offer some new content on top of it all. So I will try and I'll try and make it as relevant as possible and get most quickly to our panel discussion. Do you need to be here? Sorry? Oh, yes, of course. No, absolutely. Thank you. So I wasn't going to start with the fact that the context was Katerra, but it seems to have been a little bit of a theme in the day. And yes, I am ex-Katerra, but I'm also one of 5 of us now representing Modulous in the US. And to Richard's the invisible gorilla on YouTube when we're focused only on the things, I feel that one of the legacies of having lived through Katerra, and in my opinion, Katerra set out to change the industry, and in that it was a success. It succeeded. But the legacy is often that we're walking around going, that can fail, that can fail, that can fail. So we're very, very aware of all the things that we can pay attention to, and maybe a little bit sort of wider peripheral vision, perhaps. One of the other entries into this conversation that's relevant to Katerra as well is that, you know, every action has an opposite and equal reaction, and the spectacular nature of Katerra meant that a lot of the industry responded to us. There was a lot in the industry 4 years later. There wasn't that many people who were actors when we began. And 2, it afforded all of us who chose to join Modulous an opportunity to really talk to an awful lot of people and discuss their business models. And each and every one of us independently, when we learned about Modulous and what they were doing, sort of accepted and signed on the line. And I think that that's in many ways an expression to answer one of somebody's questions earlier about how do you apply the lessons learned. You know, we're still optimistic. We can see that it works. And through some of the lessons that we've learned, we're really passionate about the business model that we've adopted. How do I? Oh, thanks. So Modulous, first and foremost, is passionate about, as you've heard many times today, that everyone should have access, not just to affordable housing, but to safe and sustainable and healthy homes. There's a really strong focus on not just the developer's pro forma, but on the final occupant, the human dignity, which is something that's really a heartfelt mission by by all of the company, in particular the founders. And the business model you've heard is going to sound extremely familiar. If you take away the development, add another step in construction so that we become volumetric modular before we arrive to site, and then actually fundamentally add a software platform all the way through. That's really in many ways Modulous. One of the things that you won't see though is, or that you will see, is that we've got very plain slides here, and we really are stealth, and in the background we're enablers of other people's vision. And I think that's also one of the things that's really exciting conversation to have with people, in that we're not the general contractor, we're not the architect, we're not the developer, we're not the manufacturer, but we're really here to serve you and to serve those people, enable them to expedite confidently the adoption of industrialized construction. So the software is designed to help developers assess feasibility very rapidly. It's designed to be in the hands of architects to also support those early feasibility tools, hopefully really reduce their cost of sale. A lot of architects spend a lot of money up front in sort of understanding what they can do. And then for the general contractors, we have a physical kit of parts that informs the software, which allows those outcomes to be very confident. But the physical kit of parts ends up being delivered as a module to site, very much like a subcontract with materials. Sustainability is at the core of what we do. There was another question earlier about how does sustainability connect with industrialized construction? And I think for me, there's a very familiar conversation about waste reduction and transportation as well. But one of the things that's so powerful is the point of leverage in the system, and thinking through the outcomes of those materials, thinking through the performance of the building right up front, means that we can bake in an awful lot of sustainability standards and high performance, frankly, whether the developer is asking for it or not, as long as the cost works. In the UK, we use the operational values as part of the cost presentation. There's a very strong relationship there between first cost and operational cost in the total cost of build. In the US, we've got a few hypotheses about how that's going to roll out. But you'll see that it's also baked into the software, and it can be used as a weighted decision-making tool. So is sustainability really important to you? Then press your tokens here and let us know, and we'll give you the most relevant massing options that help demonstrate and uphold your values. So here's the kit of parts. Again, a very familiar concept to you, but we've whittled down on the upstream side over 1,300 components into less than 10 sub-assemblies, and we're working with our manufacturing partners to do so. The joy there of scalability is that we're already working with global partners in the UK and over here, people like Knauf and USG, and they are the authorities in manufacturing the components into sub-assemblies. Our sub-assemblies then become something that are designed for absolute ease of construction. Somebody mentioned the IKEA kind of philosophy of assembly, and very much like Juno's beautiful assembly instructions. The ease of construction and of course the speed. The ease of construction allows for low-skilled labor off-site to take care of it anywhere across the country. So there's a very flexible solution. And at the moment in the UK, it's taking 5 people 3 hours to build a unit. Quick side note, one of the moments that I'm going to be very excited to document in the year ahead is the five US team members who happen to all be women. Tristan at Swinnerton talked about access to construction, managing the assembly of the module together during our testing this year. So using the kit of parts, the software has been developed. So the physical kit of parts has informed the software in some ways informs the kit of parts. That enables a very confident expression of immediate massing, performance specifications, cost, and the schedule based on knowing the assembly connections. Skipped on schedule because there's a little bit of language connection between the UK and the US in terms of whether you call it a schedule or something else. Feasibility is appraisals as well. So lovely language connections. I've got a short demo of the software later on. So we talked a little bit about the assembly process. Through the digitization of feasibility, once someone has selected their preferred scheme, that gives us direct information for ordering the parts, right? The manufacturers allow the components to become sub-assemblies. We are able to flat pack those sub-assemblies closer to site, and that's where off-site, the volumetric modular happens. So we're building volume modules close to the project site and shipping them in. That reduces the transit restrictions of a fixed factory, but it also really ensures quality control of the build before it goes to site. One of the lessons that we did learn from Katerra was how challenging it was to actually run a construction site like a factory floor. And one contractor I was speaking to recently also really valued it for the reduction of staging that was required, especially in urban areas. He reckoned that this process would save him around 900,000 just on one small project. So we're genuinely globally scalable, and with a healthy skepticism of someone who's heard an awful lot of pitches. I'm like, so what does that really mean and how does that work? And I think that's one of the things that's been so exciting in terms of the opportunity that I keep passing my hand to Chris Bone here in the audience, who really is the founder of Modulous and a big part of the privilege of why I'm standing here. But to accelerate the vision being tested. So in the US, we took the UK kit of parts, and it's really sort of testing out the philosophy of how a UK kit of parts with software can actually function in another completely different market. Just a reminder, UK and US both have the kit of parts philosophy. We both share the same design logic, very strong continuous improvement curve there. Again, around really capturing lessons learned and continuing to adapt and improve the process and functionality. And this is just a little demonstration about how what really was involved, what does it mean? And the kit of parts in the UK had to respond to UK market needs and codes. Obviously, it needs to adapt to the US. And so really, with only a few minor adjustments, we've got a very similar kit of parts and a very similar expression. We happen to know that the units that we've designed meet about 90% of developers' needs. This is one expression of a one bed, one bath. The single modules put together allow for a unit library, again, very much like the expression that Juno offered, with just a few little shifts. Some fun ones include, the US code the fire code requires this fully enclosed entry lobby. In the States, we want to open straight into like a beautiful view. And the one that I was always keen on as head of sales at Katerra was developers always wanted to know whether a California king could fit in the bedroom. So you'll see that there. So this is a little demo. It's a fast demo, and you won't even begin to pick up on all of the sophisticated complexity that's within this. There's a little button. I don't know if someone can press play on this, but it's designed actually with some really interesting social psychology thoughts within it. So once you've established sort of your use case, whether you're a developer or architect, this is where you're given tokens to determine what your values are so that the algorithms can really run and respond to what's most important to you. You can set the project information around the parcel boundaries. You can also upload, if you're already working with a team, a civil landscape, you can also upload those drawings to provide the information. Let's see, one of the other things that I think that's worth pointing out, especially here, is data privacy. And so when you set up an account and you use the software, you can choose whether it stays private completely to you, and we really won't see it, or if you share it with your team members as well. So it's different functionality around testing out those feasibilities. You can choose unit mixes, but the algorithm will always optimize for sort of the highest FAR. And here you can see sort of running some different options. It's not quite a Tinder swipe, but we can favorite and then sort of create a little comp analysis on proformas before you choose which one feels like the right scheme. You can take a look at it fully rendered. You can turn around and take a look how it will impact the neighborhood. And you can also sort of export some metrics here and still play with them. Here, when you override, if you can choose to manually override. For example, if you think that you can reduce the parking that's currently allowed by code, you can do that, but the system will tell you and will give you a little warning to say, you know what, this is now on your risk because you're going over what this local parcel requires. And at the end here, there's an opportunity to export to various different functionalities, whether it's for permitting or into continued design. And I think it's pretty cool. I know you said I shouldn't do a sales job, but anyway. Just to demonstrate that these are some projects that are currently in the UK, so different kind of massings, different kind of facades. And this year in the US, we're already working potentially on project one in Seattle, small enough to get under design review guidelines, so maybe not so hard on the permitting, who knows, and partnering with some general contractors and some architects to do some feasibility studies on how the units work, how the costing works, and we'll be testing the assembly as well. So thank you. Look forward to some dialogue and debate.